Hello everyone. Welcome to today's daily portrait drawing practice live stream. I see there are one of you here. That is nice. One viewer, one like. Thank you so much for that thumbs up. So we do this every day. This stream is a lot earlier than I usually do in the day because tonight I will be instructing in my Shadow Shapes Zoom workshop. So I'm super thankful for everyone who's already signed up. You can still sign up at the link in the description, and it's going to be really, really cool. And I have some really fun reference for us to work from. It's going to be so good. We'll be discovering and discussing shadow shapes and value shapes. And on that note, this picture of Rada Sadygova, who is one of my favorite photographers. Her work is just amazing and inspiring. It's so good. If you're not already, you should follow Rada on Instagram. And this piece is actually from a little film, but Dasha Wood took some photos, and this was a beautiful filmed moment that I grabbed some screenshots from, and we're going to work on this one. And it's really interesting because the light is coming from below, which is not typical in most of the references we work from. In most of the situations that we view people in, the light is usually coming from above or maybe from the side, but rarely from below. So there's really interesting, this like light being bounced up from below, kind of inverting some of the light and shadow relationships, which is really interesting. I would love you to say hello in the chat. One person who is looking, or if you're watching the replay, I would love you to say hello in the replay, because it's always nice to know who's watching, who's here. And let's start doing this drawing. There are now 4 of you. Oliver's here. Well, hello. So nice to have you join so spontaneously. Oliver, are you on the Discord server? Is everyone on the Discord server? Because I share the reference there. People share their work there. It's a good place to be. I'm going to try and get this done pretty quick because I just bought this time for streaming so early in the day by letting my kids watch cartoons. So I'm sure I will be needed again soon. Hello, Elizabeth. I'll see you later today. Or you'll see me, however it will be. I'm really looking forward to the workshop. It's going to be cool. So I am still working with my Inktense pencils. And because I've had to sacrifice my usual screen, it's going to be pretty small today. I have my phone here, and there probably could have been a better place to put this. But hi, Sara. I'm looking forward to having you in the workshop too. Thank you so much for joining. You are not yet. Please join the Discord server. It's cool. It's so focused. It's so relaxed. There are so many wonderful people there, and it's really nice just to see after I post that everyone's like, boom, 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 boom. All the pictures are from, all the work that everyone's sharing is from the daily reference photos, and it's really nice to see people's different interpretations and the way people are working from the same reference. So it's really cool to see. The Discord server is a good place to be. Okay, so Rada Sadygova. This is really small the way I've got this set up. So this is really interesting, super clear black shape. So and then interesting variations in the light and shadow side of the lighting, with that lighting coming from below. A really, really interesting reference. I will try and make it easy for myself and angle the camera down this way. So yeah, I thought yellow and purple has been really cool recently, so I'm going to do some more of that. And let's start working, because soon I will need to continue tending to my children. What is everyone up to today on this Saturday? What have you been doing? I'm so happy to have you here with me now, somewhat spontaneously, for this maybe middle of the day, maybe early morning. I don't know, a very different time live stream to when it usually is. Looking at this, I took a bunch of screenshots from this a filmed moment that Dasha filmed, and it's really just a beautiful little clip. And then I was just like screenshot to try and catch a nice moment. And there were a lot that were really cool. And then I realized I don't think we've, so far in our daily drawing practice, I don't think we've ever drawn anyone with their eyes closed, have we? Am I forgetting something? I know we've drawn a lot of glasses, but I think closed eyes is not something that we've really done yet. So I thought that was really interesting choice for this one. So I have this shape here, which is going to be like my lighter side, and I'm just going to fill it here. Inktense pencil, water soluble. Once it has been wet and dried, then it's permanent. So that's the fun thing about these Inktense pencils, that they become permanent, and then you can do more layers, work on top of it. So this may not end up being super accurate, but it's a brief one. Brief practice is also valuable practice. I'm going to have to let this dry so I can move around to the hair. So really nice here that we have the hair defining the edge of the face. That may be angled more back a bit like this. This is this cool thing about working with multiple different color pencils that have different value, as in like they're lighter or darker. Like yellow is pretty much will always be the lightest color. And then if you start with the yellow foundation and then realize, oh, hang on, this is kind of the wrong shape, like I just noticed here, then you can totally fix it on the next pass. So that's really cool. I want this to be a bit dry, because I know from experience if I start drawing onto wet paper, it makes the line super, like it kind of bleeds, and then it's like really dark. And because of this thing of like once it's wet and dries, it becomes permanent, then I won't be able to use its water soluble powers. So it's really interesting thinking about this with the like inverted light situation. Like a lot of the places where we would usually have like some shadow, we've got light now, which is really interesting, like this light shape up in here. So the way I've been talking about shadow shapes, we can really totally apply it to light shapes as well. We're just looking for like groups of similar value shapes. So it's light and darkness, and if it seems to be like this is like one shape reaching here, which is connecting to the hair shape, which is like going over into the eyebrow here, is actually, so this eyebrow, the hair, the eyelashes here, it all becomes like this one connected shape. So that's really interesting. I like this way of looking at things. Sometimes it's surprising. Sarah, after yesterday's reference, you've begun looking for a streaming service to rewatch the Matrix series. Haven't seen it since it premiered years ago. Where can you watch it? I would love to know too. I watched it so many times. I had like DVD and special edition, collector's edition DVD or whatever it was called. I was so into it. But now I don't have any disc drive, and I also live in a different country to where the DVDs I had were. But yeah, it's so cool. And I've learnt new things about it, like since then, which is interesting, you know, thanks to the internet, because there's just everything on the internet. And that's cool. I'm glad that drawing Morpheus also got you re-inspired. Lawrence Fishburne, what a wonderful, he was just so good. He is so good. But particularly that role, it was just so wonderful. So yeah, looking at the light and shadow shapes, it's very interesting. Whenever, there have been a few times where I've drawn this kind of inverted value setup. Like the top lip is brighter than the bottom lip. It's so rare because it's everything that's kind of turned away from the above head lighting or the sun is usually darker. So it's really interesting to notice like where the darkness is. It's so cool. And perhaps it's interesting doing this kind of inverted lighting setup. So this, classically, this would be like a little shadow shape right here. But now we have a light shape here. And just by doing that, mapping that shape, we can figure out, we start to say, oh, okay, so that's going to be darker, this is going to be darker. And it's just a really helpful way to draw and find our way around. On the top side of the nose, also usually light, and then you would have the bottom of the nose would be a shadow, which is a classic. Like, talk with this with people about how it can be tricky drawing the nose, but if you realize often it's just capturing the shadow, which is usually under the nose, and that's enough to imply the nose, rather than going too heavy with lines, which can it can become overpowering quite quickly. With the nose, there's actually surprisingly little to draw a lot of the time when we're talking about the nose. And here, it's just so interesting to see that total inverted relationship of the light is under the nose, the darkness is above. It's really cool. And so something we'll get into in the workshop, which everyone can still sign up for, the link is in the description, which is happening pretty soon. In under 3 hours, so that's exciting. There are things when something seems really complicated, like if we look at this reference and we're like, oh, this is kind of confusing and there's so much going on, there's so much to look at, how each aspect of the complexity, all of these different shapes are giving us so much information to all of these different shadow shapes, which are in unexpected places. They all help us to find our way around, which is really cool. So sometimes there are these moments where it's like, well, how am I going to do this? If it's just feels initially like too complex, too much going on, I find that is actually, it's easier to find your way than something where there's hardly any detail to draw. Because then when you've got less information to kind of inform your decisions, then there's more guesswork. And here there's so much information there, even though it seems confusingly inverted to the way we may often look at things. Cool. Coming in, I've set that 10-minute timer and I wanted to keep this brief, and this feels, probably because there are so many shapes, there's so much to draw, this feels like pretty good. Just having all those shapes there to help make the choices. And of course this is something that I have practiced a lot, this observational drawing. But sometimes you'll notice that certain references, certain images will kind of lend themselves to drawing, just because there's so much to see. All right, so that was the 10-minute timer. I'll put the timer on again, but I don't think I won't wait another 10 minutes now. Now that I've set up so many of these shapes, once I I wet it with the water brush, then I think most of the work will be done. Which is also something I really enjoy about this way of looking at the shapes, the shadow shapes. It's like once you've got all those shapes kind of in place, if you are like painting or having somehow you're like adding value, it could just be hatching if you're not using wet media, but once you've got those shapes figured out, then it becomes a matter of just filling them in with the appropriate value. This is a cozy little live stream. How's everyone doing? I imagine probably most of you are going to watch the replay because this is unconventionally early in the day, which I also mentioned yesterday. It was going to be at a different time and I didn't know when. But if you're watching the replay, I would love to hear from you. Whenever you're watching the replays, feel free to comment, even if you're just saying hello, or if there are any questions posed, something you feel you have something to respond to, contribute to. It's always nice to read your thoughts. For those of you who do not know Rada's photography yet, it's so worth checking out. It's beautiful. She travels a lot. It's just wonderful. I've said this before, but often photography, it feels like you get to travel vicariously through the lens of these photographers, and Rada's work is just so nice, and so many of the moments she captures, so many of the stories, like behind the scenes of just being on site, which often means like in the mountains or in the desert or in some wonderful city. Those behind the scenes moments are so nice. It's really such a treasure to be able to witness the world through Rada's lens. And I've worked from her photography and live streams in the past, and we've been in touch a few times, and it's always a delight to work from her work and just to see her work. So I was really happy to see these photos of dashas of Rada, which is really nice because it's often the case, I guess, that the photographer is on the other side of the lens. Although we do get to see a lot of her through her stories and stuff. And it's nice to be able to, just connect to wonderful creative people, which is like a very good part of social media. That sense of connection and sharing. This feels about done. That's almost 15 minutes. And the values in here really interesting. Hi Cheryl. What a cool reference to work from. So thank you so much, Dasha. Thank you, Rada. Thank you to the 7 of you who are here watching right now. And thank you to those of you who have signed up for my workshop, which will be quite soon. You can still get tickets, and I will send you the link. It's going to be hosted in Zoom. And we'll spend a couple hours together, and we'll be able to talk. You don't don't feel pressured to talk, but I always appreciate a conversation. And any questions that you have that may arise as we working together, you'll be able to ask them directly. And you can always ask questions in the chat and in the comments and the live streams, but it's really different being able to be together. Like, it was interesting as I was writing to my mailing list, which you haven't already joined, you can by following the link in the description. I wrote an online in-person event, and as I wrote that, I was like, didn't that used to be like separate things? But it really is. It is in person. We get to be there. I spend a large part of my social life is my weekly Tuesday Zoom sessions, which I host, beyond my family life, which is, there's plenty of social life there, but it's really different. But yeah, just hanging out, catching up with friends, and there's a wonderful group of people. Everyone is welcome to come and join us every Tuesday. But there's like, I used to, I guess, have some kind of this idea of like the stuff that happens online is not real, you know? But over the past 5 years, spending so much time with people on Zoom, it has become very real, and like I have real friendships and real connection to people, and being able to offer the workshop in that context is like, although it is online, it is an in-person experience, which is really cool. So yeah, thanks to those of you who already signed up. And just before getting on here, I also saw someone got a ticket. So head on over to dylansara.com to get your tickets to the workshop. It's also, there are going to be 2 workshops. On the 5th of April, I'll be doing one focus on Procreate, shapes in Procreate, which will also be really cool. Even if you mostly work with traditional media, but you do have Procreate, I think it's a really educational way to start looking at and recognizing shapes that we'll be going into the workshop. So that'll be cool. That's it. Thank you, Rada. Thank you to those of you who made it to the live stream. And if you haven't already, please thumbs up and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you later, those of you coming to the workshop. And we'll be back here tomorrow, probably back to the usual time of like 9:30 German time tomorrow. It's going to be our first family day in a long time, which is nice. Siddharth retracted your message. I was just about to read it, but you're welcome, I think. I'll let you reformulate your question if you would like to. Just a moment, and I'll look back at the past few portraits. So this book is filling up nicely. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to say, if you've made it all the way to the end, put your drawing hand emoji in the chat. That's always a nice way to interact and get a gauge of how many people made it to the end. And I hope there'll be 7 drawing hand emojis in the live chat with 7 of you here. Whoever you are, thank you so much for being here. All right, let's have a look at what's going on in this book. It's interesting. It's cool drawing a bit smaller. Like there were some spreads earlier in the book where I was drawing smaller, and it's interesting the way like the faces can come together on the page. So it's like there's this open, interesting opportunity here, like what's going to come into that space will be really cool. No problem, Siddharth. You were just saying, thank you, asking if I have any tips on how to narrow down techniques to have some semblance of style. Paston, thank you for the drawing hand. I would say, like, really lean into the techniques that you feel like are working for you, that you really enjoy. And there are different things that you get out of different techniques. Like some are really good if you have lots of time, some are really good if you don't have much time, but there'll be certain materials and techniques that you use, because I find even here, like if you've been following along, I alternate between a pencil and an ink spread. And each time I flip the page, I feel like it's so interesting how different it is. And there is still something that keeps coming through, but I feel like if we're talking about style, like I think the style here is really different, and the tool that I use is part of it. Like it's this, it's like playing a different instrument, which has a different sound and can communicate the same notes in a different way. But it's like the medium that you're using becomes part of it. So the more you lean into something, like sometimes I feel like I'm switching styles, but it's actually like I'm switching media and the way I have developed and practiced working with a certain media, whether it's these water-soluble pencils or a watercolor paint, which is then different again. That each time that stylistically it's different, but it's really about the way of expression with that particular media. So yeah, I would just say the techniques that you really feel good, and you do a piece and you're like, oh, I like it when I do this, or this feels good. Like if you're at that stage yet, like I would say follow those feelings. If something feels like it's working for you, or you're enchanted by something that you see of other people's and really want to pursue that a bit more, then go for that. And I think once you start to become more comfortable with the way that you use that and the way that you draw, that then the style kind of follows. Yeah, I think. And also the time frame. Like if I do a 10-minute drawing compared to a 2-hour painting, I think I'm working in a very different stylistic kind of realm. So it's things kind of adapt to the time frame, to the material, and somehow, I'm not sure, but I would think that even though I'm working in many different time frames and different materials, that there's something that kind of unifies them through the different things that I'm doing. Like some of them really brief and may seem more like a cartoon, whereas some are more realistic. And yeah, I just like so many different things. But if there's something that you feel like you want to focus on and just do that for a while, that can be super beneficial and lead towards like settling into a certain way of working, and then the style kind of comes with it. And it's also like look at this spread, these two compared to this is when I started doing pure line, whatever that is. And so it's like it's a different exercise, and it's two very different stylistic pathways that I open up just by thinking about things a bit differently. And maybe there's something where I'd be like, either way, like I really like this spread. I felt like I was on fire with this spread. This was so good and so much fun to work on. And then to go from here and just like stop filling in all the values and stuff. That was a really kind of challenging thing to do, but it was really interesting. And there's something in this now that I look back to, I'm like, wow, this is also like really interesting. So I just follow whatever's kind of speaking to you at the time, and kind of do that for a while and see where it takes you. Lydia, late but present. You got to see this little flip through of the book. And a couple of people have joined since I've finished drawing. So here's today's drawing. Watch the replay and work on this portrait of Rada with us. And I will see you, hopefully, in 2.5 hours. Some of you in my workshop. It's going to be great. Link is in the description. There are lots of links in the description that are worth checking out. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for being here. And thank you for those drawing hand emojis. 4 of them, not 7, unfortunately. But maybe now's the time to put your drawing hand emoji in the chat.